welcoming us and me and the whole crew behind Happy for Comic-Con 2017. I'm Julia Cunningham, and I have Grant Morrison and Chris Meloni joining me for Happy ! Gentlemen, you are the writer behind the graphic novel, which is becoming the series on Syfy, and Chris, you star in the show. How did you two first, did you guys initially have conversations once your graphic novel is going to be made into the show?
Yeah, well, obviously, once that process starts, we have to find a lead actor who's as great as the lead character in the graphic novel.
Of course.
And Chris was the first guy we found, and he's the best. He's so brilliant at bringing this character to life. So yeah, I mean, I was obviously a fan of his work before from the crime shows and things. But,
from the crime shows, yes. I actually wondered if it was his interactions with this vegetable can in Wet Hot American Summer and your chemistry with that, maybe moving on to your chemistry with what would be this blue pony, voiced by, Bobby Moynihan. Was that sort of any indication that he could interact with something that he wouldn't necessarily see on screen in person while filming?
No, I think, if I may, I think it's well known in the business that I do my best work vis-a-vis inanimate objects.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done some great work with lampshades. So yeah.
Refrigerators as well.
Bingo.
Memorable
Honestly,
stuff.
refrigerators.
And something that lawsuit was settled. So,
so it's fine.
It's fine. We
Chris,
can talk about it.
Chris, I want to know, did you hear the graphic novel, or when you see these scripts, do you think this is like a really well thought out, well done character that I can really bite into?
Yeah, I was not familiar. When I read it, my first thought was, what the... And I mean that actually in a very good way, because it was a world that, obviously I went, because that was my first phone call. I go, this is based off a graphic novel, and they said, yeah, it is. And so I did a little bit of research, but it was just, it was ballsy,
right?
And it was, on the surface, a seemingly irredeemable character. And I love that because that journey of redemption, if there is to be redemption, but I always find that a very interesting journey. And just the reality, they were always tugging on what's real, how far we're going to take, what's real, what's not, and I appreciate that, living in that world.
Right. Let's talk about your character of Nick for a second, because he starts out as a cop. But
ask him on this one. I want your take on it.
Come in on your description as well, because we meet him sort of post being sort of like a stand-up cop, where he's sort of hit rock bottom, and he's returned as sort of a cynical, really carrying the weight of his world, I guess you could sort of say, on his shoulders. How did you sort of how do you sort of pitch him on paper for I guess the pilot, which people will see on Syfy?
Well, the basic idea was that this show's really about negativity versus positivity, which I think is a big theme right now.
Sure.
Especially in the world we're in just now. So it was really about how do we find a character who represents the lowest impulses, the most base human character, someone who's gone down so low, and then team him up with the complete opposite from that, which was this little bright imaginary
this
horse.
pony being voiced by
So
Bobby
very
Moynihan.
much, yeah, Sax was set out to be, he's a cop, he's fallen, we meet him 9 years after whatever happened, which you'll find out in the show, and we get to see how he rises back up out of this, as Chris said, his moment of redemption. And it's a Christmas story as well, so I think it's important to have that element. There's a sort of kind of Scrooge nature to him as well, and there's a little bit of those kind of characters. A little bit of It's a Wonderful Life in there as well.
Oh, a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life, but also a little, what else? One on the dark side, Pulp Fiction or something, or like a little sort of like pushing to that extreme. So for you, and Chris, we spoke for your show Underground, and you were getting ready to at least head to direct. And I'm wondering, has that changed you post, directing and having an eye on the other side of the camera that has allowed you to sort of think about your acting in a different way, especially in a project where you're working with an object that's not there necessarily?
No, it's not so much that. If anything, I got yet another great directing tutorial with our lead visionary, I would call him, Brian Taylor, who is taking the reins and guiding the show, the vision of the show. It's been great to be with him, to work with him, to collaborate, because he has a completely different style than what the other show that I was doing had, and so I'm just learning, a the feet of all these really great directors. So,
Right.
this is, and it's very interesting because this is really technical because we're dealing with, you have to get an animated character in there, and that's a whole other kettle of fish. Shoot the footage, make sure you have enough space for the other guy who's
The
really
thing that's there.
there but not there,
Right.
and send it off to Scotland and have those guys, computer generated.
Was that something you had to get used to? Would you have to sort of really focus on where your eye line would be? It feels like you have to add more parts to yourself, right?
I gotta tell you, it's actually fantastic because it quickly dawned on me. I went, because I thought, wow, this feels good. Why it felt good was I am conducting the scene because my reactions are kind of informing how. Because if I yell at you, you're going to have I'm dictating how the other actor must, how they must draw it, or how my reaction is. So he can't have a big reaction if my reaction is
Right, like what is
subtle,
that?
yeah, a little subtle, whatever it is. So that was interesting for me. So I kind of liked it because I was in control of the scene.
You're like, I'm the boss in this scenario. And it must be nice also if you ever had questions, and obviously there's like a crew working on the show, but to have Grant involved, right? To go and say, what sort of were the intentions in this sequence? Like how hands-on, beyond being, were you on set a lot? Was it more like sort of handing over? What was that like for you just being that involved?
Well, I loved it. I mean, I hadn't done anything like this before because I've sold a bunch of stuff, but nothing was produced. And suddenly there I was with all these amazing actors and getting the chance to see the thing come to life. So yeah, it was an amazing experience to actually work and see how the actors translate these things.
Right. Did
So
you ever?
that part was new, but I'll say this for my money. Having Grant there, what was great for me was exactly one of the things that he just said. He goes, "This is about negativity and positivity."
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's anything. He kind of comes from a metaphysical place, a grander scale of a place. He comes with things that I would not have put the questions together to get that information, but it comes out of him, and so it's been a lot of good food, nourishing for me because I'm like, oh wow, let me think of the project and my character and relationships in from that angle.
Right, in that angle
yeah,
specifically.
and it's just kind of helped fill me out. So
when you guys then started looking at it and thinking about it more linearly, right, like looking at the project that way, did you guys then have conversations like, well, we definitely want it to sort of be like a 5-season arc or something because we want to see this positivity in you eventually come out, I would hope, at some point, without like trying to spoil anything, but I imagine at some point there must be some sort of bonding relationship between you and Happy. So did you guys have those conversations where it's like we see this as a long projected arc, or what sort of like the idea of it?
Obviously the original comic book was only 4 issues, it was
Yeah.
quite a short story. And when we came to do this, we knew that we had to develop that world and expand it and bring it much more to life. So that was really when me and Brian Taylor wrote the pilot. One of the first things we started to think about was, well, where is this going to go? How do we develop this? So it was all about, there's a ton of new characters in there, there's a ton of new situations. So if you read the book, you don't even know what's going to happen in this show.
Okay, good. So it's
a
still
whole
gonna
new
be-
thing. But yeah, we've even taken it as far as you say. We've thought what season 2 is, we know what season 3 is, we kind of know the big mythology. And I think it's important to know that going in because you have an end point that you can then kind of work towards.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like Lost, just constantly opening
and
doors.
see, he did it again. The back mythology.
Right.
I love you, man. I love listening to you.
Well, was there ever a moment where you were on set or anything where you were like, I know these characters so well, like they wouldn't do this? Were they ever like, Grant, get out of here. Like, let us get involved. Were you pretty chill about allowing other people to work with your material?
Well, I'm not a precious writer, or I always think a story is just a thing that's always malleable. It can always be made better, and if you adapt something to a different medium, then you have to expect that it will be different. So I like to see what other people bring to that story. I'd loved the fact I was in the writers' room and all the writers were pitching ideas and it was stuff that I'd never thought of.
Okay.
But it made it great, and the way Chris will see the character, he'll bring out things that I didn't even know were there.
Right.
And one of the things he does is improvise. So Brian and we've written all this dialogue and he just goes in and it's like, wow. He just press the button.
I got this.
And he completely goes in, improvises dialogue, improvises amazing physical stuff. And it was just getting to see a side of you which was, he gets to be funny, he gets to be scary, he gets to be just deranged alcoholic. So he's playing a lot of different
And then I go to
And
work.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then you
it's
show
like-
up
I
to
go to
set
work.
for you show
this
up.
is
Crazy,
9 a.m.
yeah.
And did you meet Bobby Moynihan any way along, or is it like at the very end? Because he's, I'm sure, sort of voicing it in post or something, right? Did you guys actually interact, or was it much later that you guys met?
Yeah. Actually, it was we did it in post, later in the project. Yeah.
Okay. You guys eventually spent time together. Awesome. Before I let you guys go, you were saying to me right before we started that you've been coming to Comic-Con for how many years in a row?
Oh God, I don't even want to know how many years, but since 1990.
Since 1990, you've
I
come
only missed
every
one.
year.
Yeah, missed one.
Missed one. How much has it changed? I mean, do you even remember like what it was like in 1990 compared to what it's like now?
I mean, there was a hotel downtown, and that was it. The convention was there. I looked out the window, and this is a story I always tell, but it's emblematic of Comic-Con. I looked out the window, there was this little kid dressed as Green Lantern being chased down the streets by the Marines. And it was just, he was on his own, he was the only kid dressed up, and he was just like, get me out of here. Now you go out there, you wouldn't even see the Marines, the entire town.
Oh, I'm like, are
is-
they in cosplay? I have no
Yeah.
idea. It's like cops
You
on
know.
the street. I'm like, are they cops or are they in cosplay? I have no idea.
So the whole place now is just all these people letting their freak side out and letting their inner superhero out and being what they want to be for a week, and there's no judgment. And so
Yes.
yeah, it's really exploded, and I think for me, Comic-Con is how the future will look like. Everyone will be like this one day.
Justin Costown. I love it. Well, gentlemen, it's lovely to talk to both of you.
too.
I'm so amped to see Happy exclamation point coming this fall to Syfy. More information, head to EW.com. We're going to have updates, poster panel, all sorts of items. So we're very excited. Gentlemen, thank you,
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
hanging out. Stay tuned for more coverage from Comic-Con and head to EW.com.